I'm here with Haggai Levi, the CEO and co-founder of SetSail. They're a machine learning powered revenue execution platform, which we're going to dive into what exactly that means in just a little bit. But Haggai, really, I'm glad that you're here, man. I am super stoked to have you on this episode and talk a lot about, what you're building, but also, as an entrepreneur who kind of came from Google, what things you've learned from being there. And also, this is a new environment that we're in. I mean, we'll talk about this a lot, but we're in a new environment, a new sales environment. And I think one of the things we're seeing is that it requires slightly different, or maybe a lot different skill set than the previous kind of environment that we were in, pre-COVID. So we'll be talking about that as well. So I just want to welcome you to the to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Yeah, me too. So the way I usually like to get this thing started is I like to talk a little bit about who you are and what you're building right now. So kind of give us an overview about who you are, how you got to where you're at, and what you're currently building over at SetSail.
Great. So as you can hear from my accent and from my name, I was born and raised in Israel. I came to the U.S. in 2006. I went to Carnegie Mellon for a graduate degree. Then after Carnegie Mellon, I worked for a while at McKinsey and Company and joined Google in 2010. And at Google, for many years, I was leading a team of data scientists and machine learning experts. And our goal was to focus on how can we improve our sellers' productivity. As you can probably imagine, Google has tens of thousands of sellers. We were focusing for a few years with ads, selling ads, and how to improve our sellers' productivity in ads. And then we did some work with Google Cloud as well. So that's kind of on a high level. This is the background of me working here in the Bay Area. I'm based in San Francisco, being here for more than 10 years now. I have 2 kids and a dog, and life is really good here in the West Coast.
Yeah, for sure. So you have no plans on moving to Miami then, I guess, unlike some of our previous guests.
No plans for Miami, and we love California. The outdoors here is just amazing, and we spend a lot of time hiking and camping.
Nice. Well, I'm actually curious because you're staying in California in the Bay Area. But obviously this is not something that we had originally planned to talk about, but since you brought it up, I'm definitely interested, since you brought up being in California, I'm definitely interested from your perspective as a CEO. How are you thinking about talent that has either moved or is planning on moving to different states? And is that something that you would, at your company SetSail, kind of encourage that, and hire remote workers? Is that something that you're thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't have an office now, so all of us work from home, and we've been growing a lot in the past year. Our revenue grew 9x.
Congrats!
And of course, great. It was a really strong year for us. And we grew from around 12 people to we're just passing 40 now. So we recruited a lot as well. And because everybody's working from home, we're now recruiting across the US, and we just started to recruiting in Canada as well. So it doesn't matter so much. We definitely support people to work from wherever they feel comfortable to work from. Also, you know how it is in tech. Kind of working hours are important, but they're not critical. I know from my experience, there are some people that are extremely productive in their mornings and some people that are productive in the middle of the night. So we're definitely very flexible around that.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's certainly something we've talked a lot about, even on this podcast and also on our website on Best Techie. And the reason for that is because, as a knowledge worker, we've really confined the way we've thought about work for so long now. It took the pandemic to kind of shake us out of that mindset, right? Be like, it doesn't actually, we don't have to be in an office. Butts and chairs is not a good measurement or metric for tracking performance of employees. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. And coming from Google, that was the mindset as well. It's like it's not about FaceTime, it's about productivity and making sure that people are just getting stuff done. And what you learn over the years is that everyone has their own pace, and they want to do things differently. And the better you adjust to that, the more you get from the team. If you just think, in that like eight to five framework, you're just losing a lot. I mean, it's like this is not all of us are wired that way. Um, so the more flexible we are, the more we get from the team, and just with this new environment of COVID, just made it much more acceptable for everyone to just go and live wherever they want and just work from there. You just need the only thing that you really need to work at SetSail is good internet connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without that, it would be hard.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually chatting with Phil Libin, the co-founder of Evernote, and now the guy who has started over at All Turtles. And he's very much in the same mindset as what we're describing, where it doesn't matter where you are. You just need an internet connection and a device, a computer, whatever, iPad, and you can be just as productive there as you can be in the office. And like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to live where you want, have the quality of life that you want, and still do your job. And I mean, I can't see, and I can't see like, no, the problem with that kind of thinking. It seems like it gives people more flexibility, which I think is something that a lot of people wanted and want, continue to want. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing that I want is people to spend time commuting on 101.
Mm-hmm.
And they can use that hour in much better way. They can work out, they can spend time with their kids. If they really want, they can write more code, but they don't have to. Spending an hour on 101 every morning is not a good way to waste your life.
Right. Maybe if self-driving cars were more of a thing, then you could actually do stuff from the car. But even still, like, it's not always the best experience, at least in the current car configurations. Like, you can still get car sick looking at your phone, and there's like all that stuff. So it's still not an ideal solution, even if you had a self-driving car. You're still ending up sitting in traffic, which is not usually fun. So I want to talk more about SetSail and kind of like what you're building there. So can you kind of like explain it to us in a way that that really kind of will resonate with people who maybe are not as familiar with machine learning powered revenue execution platforms?
Yeah, so as you probably know, machine learning and data science for sales is not something new. There's been a lot of work done on that from many great companies for the past decade. Started with organizing data in a better way in a CRM, and then moved to a lot of platforms that are trying to take that data and make it more insightful. You probably heard kind of the notion around actionable insights, and making it like in a good dashboard that sales managers can understand what's going on in the pipeline, and reps can follow it, and so on. What we found that the missing piece is translating these insights to actual day-to-day behavior. So just to kind of give it a magnitude, in Google, we built so many dashboards using our machine learning algorithms that we had to have dashboard to monitor how much people are using our dashboards.
That's nuts. Oh my God.
So we had dashboards for dashboards. I mean, it's like we had like endless data, as you can imagine at Google. The tools that we had now, some of them are available externally, but TensorFlow and all of that great stuff was available for us internally for many years at Google. But it's became kind of paralysis by analysis. There are so many numbers there. The sales leader looks at the dashboard, and then another dashboard gives them just the opposite answer. So what should I do as a sales leader? And what we found that is really missing is a layer after the dashboard that helps you actually change the behavior of the reps. And we all know that the best way to change behavior of reps is using compensation. But if you look at commissions and how they're set up today, the commission is not a great tool for supporting the reps in the way they're doing their work. No, commission is very back looking. It's
Mm-hmm.
very kind of Boolean. It's like either you won the deal or you lost the deal, then you get the money. But we know every salesperson will tell you that the reality is much more complicated than that. Like winning a deal takes a lot of very small steps that you have to do in a very specific order in order to win the deal. And sometimes, even when you do these steps, it doesn't work. No, your champion goes away, or some event happened that
Yep.
you lose the deal. It's not your fault as a sales as a seller, an account executive. So what we did in Google, and now we productionize that out of Google, is building a platform that allows sales leaders to help reps see small wins and reward reps for small wins in order to get that big win. And let me give you an analogy. So for me, for example, every January, I have this New Year resolution that I want to run a marathon. Uh, so there are some people, great athletes, that if they have that New Year resolution of running a marathon, they will know what the steps that they need to take. They will know, okay, here are the 5 things that we need, or 10 things that we need to do in the next 3, 4 months in order for us to make it possible to run a marathon. And you can think about these great athletes like the top 20% of your sales team. There are some great salespeople that don't need any guidance. They would be able to close deals and they don't need any plan around that. Unfortunately, these are only 20% of your sales team. Then most of us human beings, if I want to run a marathon, I need a training plan. And I need a Fitbit to help me to go through that training plan. And that's what SetSail for most of salespeople. It's a Fitbit that helps you guide you through the process and rewards you on making small steps to win the big deal.
That makes sense. Gosh, I wish I had that. When I was building my analytics company, Kaya, one of the things we were doing, similar to kind of set sail, but we were doing it for publishers, trying to help give them actionable insights to help them create more engaging content, ways that they could. What I would used to say to people is spend less time staring at numbers and more time actually creating engaging content for your audience. So we would bubble up kind of insights like that through our platform. So I love that. I love that you kind of break it down. That's really fascinating. And so I'm curious, like what kind of stats are you seeing in terms of? Do you have like comparisons versus prior to companies using SetSail in terms of tracking?
Yes, so again, this is much more than tracking. This is tracking and rewarding, which
Mm-hmm.
is very important. No, it's like it's not just we're tracking what the reps are doing, we're rewarding the reps to do the right things. Stats that we're seeing before using SetSail are a few different lenses. So for example, the revenue concentration. So we see a lot of companies, even if they're hidden numbers, the revenue is concentrated towards a very small amount of reps. So 20% of the reps are actually doing 80% of the revenue, which again, if you're a sales leader, this is a very risky situation for you, because think about these top 20% of reps, great, they're getting your number, but because they're so good, probably they're looking for their next job or the next role. So not necessarily they will stay with you. So this revenue concentration, we see that across the board with every company that we're working with is a big problem. That's like one. Second problem that we're seeing that you probably know really well is that now with COVID, it's even take longer time for reps to ramp up. So, even before COVID, when people work from the office, for an enterprise sales rep, it would take around between 4 to 6 months to ramp up on average, to build their pipeline, to get ready to start pitching and start to win deals. And now we're seeing with the remote work that it takes more like 8 months to a year. And that's huge. If you're building a sales team and you're hiring 10, 20, 30 people a quarter and it takes them a year to ramp up, that's a huge drag on your
Mm.
revenue numbers. So that's kind of the second. And the last thing is motivation. I mean, it's like what we've seen across the board, unlike other professions like, coding, people don't mind being by themselves and code the way through and just, do the long hours and maybe code through the night, and working from home was great for them. For salespeople, it's a little bit different. Working in isolation is taking a toll. And what we're seeing it on retention. So sales reps are just sticking around less. So if as as a whole, retention in sales was a challenge for sales leaders. It was something around 24 months before COVID. Now we're seeing it's going down to 18 months. So
Wow.
so think about that. The problem from both sides. It takes you to ramp up your rep around a year,
And you're
but
losing them
18
just
months
as
in,
fast.
they're
Yep.
actually looking for their next job.
Yeah.
That's a huge challenge.
So something SetSail can help organizations with then.
Exactly. So again, if you deploying SetSail as a revenue execution platform, we can help guide your new reps through. Okay, these are what the best reps are doing. Also, pay them either through spiffs or through the drawer that you're paying them. We can actually pay them on building a real pipeline. Your reps are actually much more happy because they have much more certainty on what they're getting paid for. Now the company is sharing the risk with them. Now the company is willing to pay them on making progress with deals, not just on closing deals. If you're a new rep in a company, it may take you a year to start closing deals. You don't want to be starved in that year. So the
Yeah.
only solution that companies have today is paying in a draw. We have a solution that can pay for making progress, and sales leaders love it, reps love it. So it's a very unique win-win solution that makes the reps more productive, but also make them more happy.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that's incredible. One of the questions I guess I had based on what you were saying is, so is your product definitely, is it more for larger organizations at the moment, or do you have a version or a product that also works for, let's say, startups that are just starting to scale up?
Yeah, so again, we found our solution quite effective in companies that have 50 sales reps or more and growing fast.
Okay.
The challenge for these companies, they already know conceptually what their sales motion should be.
Mm-hmm.
And now the biggest challenge for them is how to scale in a consistent way. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
I need to hire another 20 reps. I need to get them up to speed. I don't have enough managers. I don't have enough people to coach them. How do I make sure that they're up to speed? I think if you have a very small startup and you're just starting, you should focus more your effort on iterating on your sales motion. And definitely we can help you, but let's wait that you'll be bigger and you need more kind of consistency and scale.
That makes sense. And the reason I was asking was because I talk to a lot of founders and startups and people who are, just looking to get scaling, but they figured out their product market fit. They figured out how to sell the product, and now they're looking to kind of repeat that process and continue selling. And so I know that, that's also a very tough kind of moment in time for a company when you're just starting to scale up your sales team, and it's like, all right, we have a process in place. We have all the documentation that we're going to give to the sales reps and to get them started. But now we actually have to go through the process and get everyone on board and signed up and and hired and starting to sell. So
What's amazing with all these enablement calls and training is that there are a lot of studies out there that showing that a day after these trainings, the reps basically forget 70% of the material. So again, even if you know what to do, in order to scale in a consistent way, and this is what SetSail does, it helps you to guide your reps while they're doing sales and pay them to do the right things. These two things are very important if you're trying to scale.
definitely, that's awesome. So I want to travel back in time a little bit to when you spent 7.5 years at Google, obviously, as we talked about, leading data and science teams. And so at your time at Google, I would imagine, was pretty formative in terms of the way you kind of thought as an entrepreneur eventually, when you set out on your own with SetSail. See what I did there? But yeah, so I'm curious, so what did your time at Google, what did you learn there that still kind of impacts how you think about the way you work today? What were some of those learnings that you took with you?
Yeah, so I want to start with, Google is definitely the best place I worked, from beginning of my career. A very, very sound company with a great product, great people. Um, and I learned a lot from working there. It's like, I would say number one fundamental thing, which is Google is very known for. I learned how to use data
Mm-hmm.
and to make data effective. Uh, Being part of Google, you're just very lucky to, work with one big amount of data. Second, talent that you can't find anywhere else. Some of that talent, lucky for me, was willing to join me at SetSail. And then lastly, the internal tools that Google has are just phenomenal. I mean, it's like you have basically access to technology that no one has in the market 10 years before it goes to out to the market. And we just learned, tons out of that. And so, even though one way to think about SetSail, we've been in the market for 3 years, so we left Google 3 years ago. But the reality is that we've been doing what we've been doing for more than a decade. We just did it in a different place with different set of data and so on. But that's kind of gave us a huge advantage. So that's like number one. Second thing that you probably hear from a lot of people that came out of Google, what you learn at Google, especially as an executive, you learn how to run very talented teams, which sounds simple, but how do you make sure that your people are empowered and motivated and really want to work on that big ideas, and Google is a company of big ideas. So as an executive, you just learn over the years to run and motivate teams, high performing teams, which is what Google is really known for. If you think about that, a lot of people think that Google is known for search. What's Google is doing really well is attracting top notch talent and making it effective. That's kind of the secret, and Google just learned how to do that in a very good way. And it's not about free food. Free food is it's one line item. If you ask about most of people at Google, that's not the important thing. I mean, it's like, of course they love it, but there are so many other things that Google learned over the years how to make teams very, very effective.
That's a really interesting point. I feel like you're right. Not enough people actually kind of talk about that at Google. I mean, clearly, when you have a high performing team and a lot of top talent, I would imagine a bunch of Type A personalities in a room. Managing that group of people takes a certain level of skill to make sure that everyone is feeling, like you said, empowered, that they're heard, that they feel like that their points are being made and getting across the room. So that's a really great point. And another thing that you said that really interested me was, earlier you were talking about how like you guys had access to TensorFlow like even before like we did, and I'm just curious, like how so you had it years before. You said that's incredible. Like, so these are the types of technologies that you would obviously get at working at Google. You don't have access to elsewhere until they choose to make it public. That, and you guys have at Google have like literally the internet's data, I would imagine, at your fingertips at all times, which is pretty incredible.
By the way, theoretically, it sounds that at Google you have access to all data, but just to make things clear, you don't. I mean,
Okay.
there's so many restrictions that the data in such silos that it's not that as a data scientist you can just you can just access anything that you want.
Well, that's reassuring. So and good to know. Awesome. No, let's talk a little bit more about Google and your time there and how it helped you kind of prepare yourself to be a startup CEO. What are so we talked about some of the things that it helped you prepare for and that it gave you the tool set to work with. But what were some things that you weren't prepared for? That you kind of had to learn on the fly, that you were feeling a little uncomfortable when you were
Well,
learning.
yeah, I mean that's that's a really good point. It's like when you're at Google, everyone that give a call to, it's like, of course they would take the call because you're from Google. Now it's like, hey, I'm Haggai, I'm from Google. Can we have like a quick conversation about something? When you leave Google, freaking nobody cares. So, so I learned a lot. There are a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, and I grew in the last 3 years. I would say, the most important things for a startup, which is one, how to raise money. I mean, of course, at Google, you didn't have to raise money. So that's kind of a skill set that I gained over time. Lucky for us, I picked it up pretty fast. We raised $37 million so far, and the environment now is actually quite favorable for great companies. So
Definitely.
it's great to raise.
Valuations are higher than ever at the moment. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I feel
mean,
like that's always the case, but yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it sounds simple, but the reality is that investors are very sophisticated animals. I mean, they're not giving money or valuations to companies that do not deserve it. It's like it's
Right.
not that you can just go and pitch to a neighbor and you got a check. Uh,
Right. Absolutely.
so
We are not saying that that's how it works. It absolutely does not. As someone who's raised money myself, I can assure you of that.
these guys are very smart. I mean, they're not so. So that's raising money is one. I mean, second thing that I to be honest, I'm still learning and I'm not doing great job, and I still need to do better job is how to sell. It's a kind of it's quite hard. It's
You
like
know, it
and
certainly
for
is.
all sellers that are listening to the podcast, I mean, it's like I have so much respect to you guys. I mean, it's like selling a product, specifically if the company is an unknown company, nobody knows about it, nobody knows what is revenue execution, who cares about revenue execution. Uh, so sales is a very hard profession, and I'm again, I have a long way to go, but I'm still learning from some of the best sellers on how to convince someone to try our product. And more than that, I think the magic part of sales is how do you work with the customer to create real value for their business,
Yeah.
because this is the only way that you can convince someone to spend money on your product is creating real value. um, and so that's kind of the two main things. I mean, I would say one small thing, like recruiting for a startup is always harder than recruiting for Google, you can probably imagine. I would actually put that in sales as well. It's like you're
Yeah, it's
selling
another form
customers,
of
but end
selling.
of the day, you're selling employees as well. So if you ask me what do I do as a CEO, 98% of my time is selling to investors, customers, and employees.
And I feel like that's great, especially. I mean, I feel like that's definitely the place a lot of entrepreneurs are in early, and especially at startups. And I love that you said that because selling is a constant kind of evolution. I feel like, right? You kind of have to evolve as you learn to sell, and that seems to be something you're doing. I'm curious, like you talked about adding value and making sure that you understand kind of the customer's pain point and how you can add value to help alleviate that pain. So with SetSail, how have you kind of thought about like your evolving your selling technique? Like, where did you start? Like, how did you start selling it versus how you're selling it today? I think that would be a really kind of interesting insight.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I think in SaaS software and what we're doing, the magic word is partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what you're looking for are people that are in a position that they're looking to solve a specific problem to their organization, and they're looking for a great partner to do it with that would go all the way to solve their problem. I'll give you an example. One of our biggest customers is Cisco. They just, by the way, everything that I'm saying is public. They just published few case studies on that. I'm not revealing anything out there, but one of the challenges that they had is that their CRM data was incomplete. And we are the revenue execution platform. Part of it is to make sure that your revenue data and your CRM data is much more complete. Otherwise, we can't run our machine learning algorithms. So Cisco reached out to us. They asked us to help us with that data. And in 5 months, we're able to increase their completeness of their CRM from single digit to high double digit while deploying our platform. So my point is, you know, going back to your question, how do I think about sales? I don't think about it as getting someone to buy my product, but I'm thinking about that. How can we partner to create real business value for that company? And even on a personal level, no, if you're working with a VP of sales or a CRO or a head of sales ops, and you're creating value to their company through SetSail, they're becoming more successful. They're getting their next promotion, or they can get their next job. If they're successful, SetSail is successful. So that's what I mean by partnership. It's much more than just move the product.
Absolutely. I feel like, partnership, and it kind of goes hand in hand with finding, a term that I feel like a lot of people use is champion within that organization. Someone who believes in what you're doing, sees the value, and then will bring it up to the rest of the organization and bring it through the organization and work with you to get it implemented. And like finding that person can be tough, but once you do find that person, it can be game changing for your entire business, especially when it comes to working or partnering with a particular organization that you want to work with. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I completely agree. I can, one day I will do that short list of people, these champions in different companies. Like, I mentioned Cisco, but we're also working with Dropbox, ADP, HubSpot, LinkedIn. And as you mentioned, we have these champions there that without them, there were no SetSail. It's like
yeah,
there was just phenomenal people that, to be honest, made a decision to take a risk on this new innovative concept.
yeah. You got, and those people. Thank you. Thank you to those people, right? That's amazing. So I want to keep talking about selling. I want to talk a little bit about, I kind of alluded earlier that we're going to be in a new environment, a remote environment in many instances. Maybe companies won't be flying salespeople around to meet in person for like the first time meetings or, whatever anymore. How is this new environment going to affect selling? From a sales rep perspective, and also how does kind of SetSail, in your opinion, how are you guys thinking about adjusting to that?
Yeah, so what you're saying is really, really interesting. If you think about sales jobs in the past year, everyone saw a change. It's like if you're a field sales rep, suddenly you were selling from home and the kids are running around, the dog is barking.
Yeah,
If you're an inside sales rep where you used to be on the floor, suddenly you're selling from home when the kids are running around and the dog is barking. So everyone is out of their comfort zone. No, it's like we're in a huge shift. But what's really amazing is that like other industries, I mean, it's like my kids, for example, the way they go to school in the past year changed completely. So if you look at the education industry, it this year gave that industry a huge opportunity to leapfrog from a technology point of view. It's like I have my 6-year-old know how to operate Zoom and Google Docs, like like I didn't know, sorry, when I was like 35, which is like kind of so on one hand, yeah, the world changed entirely, but the other hand, there's a huge opportunity for leapfrogging. So if you're talking about sales, I think you're right. There would be less travel. There would be much more working over email, Zoom, uh, other conversation intelligence tools, and of course SetSail. And these technologies, it's really interesting. If you would ask people, for example, a year ago, would you be comfortable for me recording our sales call? They would say no. You asking them now, a year past, it's like, what, are you kidding? You don't have like you don't have a recording system for your sales call? It's like everybody has it. So you look at looking a year back, a year ago, it was like totally non it was not clear that sellers should record their calls. Now it's kind of obvious. It's like kind of the question became kind of the opposite question. My recorder is on. Do you want me to turn it off?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
like, no, can I turn on my recorder? It's like, do you want me to turn it off? So what's amazing is that when you have all that data, you suddenly have, phone calls and Zoom calls, and you can create that environment that is much more data driven. Less and less of the communication is done offline that system cannot track, and you can use that as a sales leader, as a sales rep. You can use that to your advantage. So, one of
Absolutely.
the things that we're doing in SetSail, which is becoming like common practice, before you getting on a call with a customer, go and listen to the past 5 calls to make sure that you know exactly where the deal is in. No, it's like think about that. A year ago, it was like a no go. Nobody would record calls. No.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That's it's crazy how fast everything changed. Um, Pretty much overnight. I mean, if you think about it, and it's nuts, kind of how people have evolved in that sense. So that's fascinating to me. One of the things I was thinking also was how, like, you know, I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, but I feel like it's a really interesting platform, and I've made a lot of connections both personally and from a business perspective through the app. And I feel like if you're a salesperson and you're not on Clubhouse, you really should be, because there are so many fascinating people on there doing all these different things, and you can really kind of just you never know who you can really connect with. And if you curate your following and the rooms that you go in, you can actually I've seen it myself, really develop business relationships with people and do business through the app. I mean, you can take it offline, obviously, but you can connect with great people that way, and it might be another kind of avenue for salespeople to explore.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm still trying to get my head around Clubhouse for sure. I'm still getting to use to my cell phone that I just no, I'm just kidding. Um,
I'll have to get you on. I would love to. I run a number of rooms every all the time, and on my Florida Entrepreneurs Club that I started, and I would love to have you in a room. I'm sure the community, we have over 700 people already in the club, and we host rooms on Monday and Friday at 3 p.m., as well as a Wednesday room for kind of a weekly check-in at 7 p.m. And it's been really great. And but yeah, I would love to have you on, and we'll have to
yeah, I
schedule
would
that.
love to join, and I think it's actually a reflection to kind of the sales community. It's
Yeah.
like in sales, uh, unlike other professions, like this human connection is so important. No,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason that it's so important is that salespeople have great EQ, because end of the day, you have to the other side that you're selling to is another human being that you need to convince and buy into your product. So this is why I love salespeople. They're tuning into kind of the more softer part of us. Being a great salesperson is almost being a psychologist. No, it's like kind of you need to understand. Okay, what drives that person that I'm working with? How do I actually change your perception about what I'm doing, and how do I get them to the table? So I think it's
Absolutely.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I was talking about a Clubhouse, just to go back to that real quick, is because with the app you can actually hear people's voices. You can hear the inflections. You can hear how they sound. You can hear whether they are interested just based on how they're talking, which is fascinating. So you can't. That's not something you can get over text, like through a cold email reaching out, to someone. It's not the same. So, yeah, but I just thought that was really interesting. I want to move a little bit, talking about sales execs and people who are leading sales teams. In a post-COVID world, is there something different that they should be doing, or a different way of thinking when it comes to managing their teams?
Yeah, I do think that there's a different ways to look at it. It's like think about kind of before COVID. a lot of the conversations of sales leaders and sales managers with their teams was around, hey, tell me what's going on in your pipeline. How is this deal going? Did you talk with the executive buyer? Did you already pass, some kind of document? So, is there already a pricing conversation and so on? I think the technology leapfrog that we've seen in the past year allows to change this conversation completely. So we already have technology that helps you understand what's going on in the pipeline and in the deals. Now, I think the expectation from sales leaders is to get up to speed using these systems. And then the one-on-one with the rep and the AE should be around, how can I help you? Not what's happening. I already know what's happening. I listened to the call. I looked at SetSail. I know what's going on in your pipeline, in your deals. I'm up to speed. Let's not waste time on that. Let's now talk. How do we move to the next steps?
Right. Yeah. That it's so funny to me because it feels like it's like, why wasn't it this way before? Like, but I guess, we all have to get to where we're going at some point, and it just takes time to get there sometimes. That's really interesting.
You need like an event like that.
Yeah. To kind of shake things up.
Technology so available and kind of everyone to adopt it. Now, and again, just one comment on that. Don't get me wrong. I don't think salespeople or sales managers are going anywhere. I think the way they do work, the day-to-day work, changes.
Absolutely, I see that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, that's just an opportunity to kind of reshape how you think about, working with your team and kind of even being more effective and working more in tandem with them, and and being more efficient too, not just effective, but efficient. So yeah, absolutely. So I got one last question before we get to the lightning round. I know we didn't get to go through everything, but oh man, this conversation's been incredible. You've dropped so many great insights and knowledge bombs. I feel like I've learned a ton. So I'm really excited. Can't wait for this, to release this one. So I'm curious from your organization, a startup that's, helping salespeople, what products do you within your organization use to communicate? And, what are your go-to productivity tools and communication tools within SetSail?
Yeah. So, naturally we're using kind of what the stack that a lot of other companies are using. We're using Slack, using Zoom a lot. So, communication, I would say with Slack is almost real time now. It's like we're talking with each other even while we're having sales calls, which is great. We're using the call intelligence tools a lot as well, to make sure that we can debrief, understand what happened in the calls. And of course, we're using SetSail internally. So, it's great to see how I'm treating myself currently as an AE, even though we have another 6 sellers in the company. And SetSail is also very competitive. So it's great to compete against other people. So there's a lot of very interesting talk end of the week around who's doing what and how they're doing it.
I love me some friendly competition, and that's always fun.
Yeah, it's always great to emulate the CEO. No,
love that. Said,
I'm not the best salesperson. We have some really great AEs in SetSail.
That's amazing. Well, shout out to them and for all the good work that they're doing over there. So Haggai, we made it to the lightning round, which is obviously a sign that we're coming to the end. But don't fret. We'll have to have you back on. So now that we're at the lightning round, I'm gonna hit the button whenever you're ready, and we'll get started.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, here we go. All right, here we go. What is your favorite streaming service?
Spotify.
Nice. Spotify is a good choice. More of a Tidal fan at the moment, but just because of the high quality. But Spotify is also a great platform. I love that the fact that they have literally, you can type anything, a mood, into the search bar and come up with infinite playlist recommendations. That is definitely one of the nice perks of it.
Yeah. Also, by the way, the offering on podcast got really much more robust in the past year. So
Mm,
really adding much more podcasts there, which is great.
love that. Love that. What's the number one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, interesting. Um, I really want to be. I really want to do kite surfing. So I'm an avid sailor, but I didn't have any chance to do kite surfing. So I have this idea in my mind to take like a long vacation and learn how to kite surf.
Oh man, that sounds like fun. I'm curious now that you mentioned you're an avid sailor. Did that have anything to do with the name of the company?
Part of it, it's like we wanted to have like a very positive name
Mm-hmm.
actually I didn't come up with the name, so I would love to take the credit, but it's not coming from me. But SetSail is just a it leaves like a very good taste and a positive experience.
Yeah, I like the name a lot. If you could shop for free at one store, what would you choose?
I would choose not to shop. So here's the thing. It's like
Okay.
seriously, I think I have way too much stuff.
Yeah,
I'm actually in the mindset of getting rid of stuff, not shop more stuff.
you're smart. You're a smart man. What celebrity would you most like to have a meal with?
Oh, good question. Warren Buffett for sure.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, he would be an interesting meal buddy.
Okay,
Uh,
I'm changing that. Elon
okay.
Musk. Elon
Elon?
Musk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Also an
Warren
interesting
Buffett
choice.
was 5 years ago. I want to have a meal with Elon Musk.
I I would love to be a fly on the wall during that meal. That would sound, I bet that would be really fascinating to listen to. All right, last one. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Current number of unanswered emails in your inbox.
Oh, zero.
Oh, you're an
I'm
inbox
I'm
zero
I'm
kind of
a
guy?
zero inbox person.
That's awesome. I mad props to you for that because I every time I try it, I'm only able to do it for so long before my inbox just
I
explodes.
can't, to be honest, I can't go to sleep every night without zeroing my inbox. That's it. I mean, I have to.
Ugh, I I gotta commend you. That is incredible.
By the way, I just to give you a trick, there is some small tricks for that. So
Sure.
there's a snooze functionality.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that I answer everything, but I
Mm.
am zeroing zeroing out my inbox.
I love that. I'm gonna have to take more advantage of the superhuman snooze functionality. That is not something a feature that I use too much, but I really should. Awesome. Well, Haggai, I'm really, really glad we got to do this episode. For people who are listening who want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you talked about or set sail, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Again, we just launched our new website. Feel free to visit there. It's setsail.co. And of course, if you have questions for me about entrepreneurship, companies, about SetSail or anything else, you can email me directly. My email is Haggai, Haggai, at setsail.co. I mean, just for you to notice, I have an AI in my name.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't notice that, but now that you pointed out, you're
That's
right.
built in.
It's built in. You have AI technology built right into yourself.
Okay,
Love it. Love it.
exactly.
Well, thanks so much for being on, Haggai. I look forward to keeping in touch, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Jeff.